On my 22nd birthday, I woke up in the alpha's bed, with his wolf calling me mate. She thought she was invisible. He thought he was untouchable. But one night, a bond they couldn't control ignited, and now the strongest alpha in the region fears the one woman fate has claimed as his. Why does the strongest alpha fear her? What will happen now that the bond has triggered? Chapter 1. Dawn over Blackwood. Kalen woke before the sun, as he always did, the chill stone beneath him grounding him in routine. The Blackwood pack still slept, but he could feel the tension lingering in the air, the weight of responsibility pressing down on his shoulders. The council would convene soon, whispers of the trial of leadership twisting like smoke through the hallways. He could almost hear Valen's smug voice in his mind, calculating, assessing, always a step ahead. Kalen's wolf growled softly beneath the surface, a reflexive warning he ignored. He rose, pulling a heavy cloak around his shoulders, and stepped onto the ramparts. The first light of dawn painted the forest in muted gold, the trees swaying gently in the morning wind. His eyes scanned the training grounds below. That's when he saw her, Mara. She moved among the younger wolves with quiet authority, correcting a stance here, offering encouragement there. Her presence was subtle, almost invisible to the untrained eye. Yet to Kalen, it was impossible to overlook. Years ago, he had dismissed her as weak, unworthy of notice. And yet, seeing her now, strong, capable, yet still unassuming, stirred something deep within him. His chest tightened, a sensation he hadn't allowed himself in years. He clenched his fists, forcing the feeling down. Love was a trap, a weapon, and he had sworn never to fall prey to it again. The scent of morning mead drifted from the kitchens, reminding him of the shared birthday celebrations that would come. Another twist of fate. Another reminder of Mara's presence in his life, unavoidable and irritating. He could almost feel the bond stirring, subtle, a whisper he had long ignored. He paced the ramparts, mentally preparing for the day. The Blackwood pack relied on his control, his unwavering strength. Weakness was not permitted, and yet the pull he felt toward Mara was undeniable. Her laughter, quiet but genuine, echoed in his mind, and for the first time in years, he felt the stirrings of vulnerability. He paused, watching her guide a young wolf through a complicated maneuver. The way her hands moved, precise and confident, made something inside him ache, a longing he refused to name. His wolf growled, restless, demanding attention he could not give. The morning sun crested the treetops, and Kalen took a deep breath. Today he would face the council, maintain his authority, and ignore the dangerous pull he felt toward Mara. Yet, even as he tightened his cloak and returned to the hall, a small part of him knew this day would change everything. Fate had begun its work, and no amount of control could prevent it from reaching him. Chapter 2. A Gathering of Shadows. The hall was alive with firelight and laughter, a rare scene of celebration in the otherwise grim Blackwood stronghold. Kalen's eyes swept the room, noting subtle alliances, quiet whispers, and cautious glances. He did not smile, did not drink, and most certainly did not relax. His role was to observe, to control, to anticipate threats, both internal and external. Mara moved among the crowd, unnoticed by most, yet entirely visible to him. Her laughter, soft and bright, cut through the heavy air, pulling at something he had long buried. Across the hall, Valen stood, confident and poised, commanding attention effortlessly. The rival Alpha's eyes found Mara repeatedly, and Kalen felt an unfamiliar sting, jealousy, raw and sharp. He told himself to ignore it. He had survived betrayal before, and he would survive this. Yet when Mara's gaze met his briefly, a flicker of acknowledgement passing between them, something shifted. The wolf beneath his skin stirred, restless, insistent. Desire and danger intertwined, impossible to separate. Kalen noted every movement, every glance, every whispered word. Valen's subtle attempts to charm Mara, to draw her into his orbit, were deliberate and calculated. And yet, It was the way she moved through the room, unassuming, strong, radiant, that left him both captivated and terrified. The firelight danced across Mara's face, highlighting the quiet determination in her eyes. She was more than a threat to his control. She was a mirror of what he had lost, what he had feared, and what he might still risk if he let himself. His wolf growled, low and restrained, warning him of his own weakness. He took a slow breath, grounding himself in the familiar weight of responsibility. This was a celebration, yes, but also a battlefield of subtle power plays. Mara's presence complicated everything. Valen's presence complicated everything further, and yet he could not look away. As the night progressed, the laughter, the music, and the faint scent of mead blurred around him. He focused solely on her. Every small movement, every accidental touch, every shared glance sent waves of a feeling he had long denied. By the time the gathering wound down, Kalen knew something had changed. Something inevitable had begun, and he hated himself for it. Chapter 3: Firelight and Temptation. Later, the hall had emptied, leaving only the crackle of fire and the low murmur of distant voices. Kalen stood near the hearth, hands clenched, trying to control the surge of sensations he could no longer name. The bond was real. He could feel it vibrating between them, subtle yet undeniable. Mara's voice floated to him, soft and melodic, telling a story of past struggles with a sincerity that made his chest ache. He should have looked away. He should have maintained distance. But he did not. His wolf stirred violently, growling beneath the surface, a warning he ignored. When their hands brushed, the world shifted. Time slowed. The pull was magnetic, undeniable. Desire flared, fierce and uncontainable. His instincts screamed to claim, to protect, to dominate. Yet a deeper, quieter part of him hesitated. Fear, caution, the memory of betrayal and loss that had shaped him for decades. Mara met his gaze, unafraid, almost daring him. The tension between them was suffocating. Words failed, replaced by the unspoken language of the bond. When the night ended, they were together, in a private, intimate moment that would alter the course of both their lives. Kalen left her sleeping, pacing the balcony outside her quarters. He forced himself to breathe, to focus on the responsibilities awaiting him. Leadership demanded clarity, not desire. And yet, desire was all he could think of. He had spent years believing love was a trap, yet he now understood that some traps were irresistible. The morning sun would not bring relief. The bond was real, the attraction was undeniable, and he feared more than anything what it might demand from him. Chapter 4: The Aftermath. Kalen's first steps into the morning were careful, measured. The bond hummed in his veins, subtle yet powerful, reminding him that nothing could return to the way it had been. Mara's absence from the balcony offered little comfort. He had left her sleeping, but her presence lingered, a phantom in his mind. Council members whispered across the hall, political maneuverings layering over his personal turmoil. Valen's eyes had lingered on Mara the previous night, and Kalen knew the rival Alpha would exploit the bond if given the chance. Protection was no longer optional. The wolf within him demanded action, yet he resisted, aware that overt displays of desire were dangerous in the context of leadership. Every glance from Mara, every subtle movement pulled at him. He realized with a mixture of fear and awe that she was no longer merely a wolf under his pack's protection. She was a force in her own right, and his wolf recognized her as mate, as partner, as equal, and that truth terrified him. He retreated to his quarters, pacing as he wrestled with his instincts. How could he protect her without exposing weakness? How could he maintain control while acknowledging the bond that now existed between them? These questions gnawed at him, unrelenting. By midday, Mara appeared in the training grounds, instructing younger wolves with the same quiet authority that had ensnared him in the first place. He watched, torn between desire, fear, and the growing realization that she might influence the political and emotional tides in ways he had not anticipated. Kalen's wolf growled, restrained yet insistent. The warning was clear. Mara was no longer someone he could ignore, and neither was Valen. Chapter 5. Wolves in the Shadows. Evening descended over Blackwood, painting the forest and stone walls in a dusky gold. Kalen had walked the ramparts multiple times, wrestling with the wolf inside him and the implications of the bond. Mara moved silently through the shadows, her presence both calming and infuriating. "Good evening, Alpha," she said quietly, her voice steady, carrying a hint of challenge. Kalen studied her, measuring risk and desire. Her hand brushed his as she passed, and the bond flared again, unignorable. The wolf growled low, restrained but dangerous, demanding acknowledgement. He forced himself to step back, hiding the reaction he could not control. Valen lingered in the distance, his attention on Mara unmistakable. Kalen's jaw tightened. He could not allow his fear, or his desire, to compromise his authority. And yet, the pull was magnetic, impossible to resist. The night air was heavy, full of scents of forest, smoke, and mead. Every movement Mara made, every small smile, challenged his resolve. He realized the truth he had long avoided. She would change him, whether he allowed it or not. Love, he had thought, was weakness. But now, it was a weapon, a chain, a fire that threatened to consume him entirely. Kalen stepped away, hiding his trembling hands, yet his mind could not stop tracing Mara's form. The wolf within him howled softly, warning and craving in equal measure. He would protect her, he decided, and he would earn her. Not as a possession, not as an alpha claiming a mate, but as someone capable of loving without fear. The thought terrified him more than any rival, more than any political threat. Tonight, he understood. Nothing would ever be the same, and he would not allow it to be otherwise. Chapter 6. The Weight of Observation. Kalen had never been comfortable with scrutiny. His every decision, every movement, was weighed not just by the pack, but by the ever-watchful council and the rival Stonefang Alpha, Valen. Today, he lingered in the training yard, silently observing Mara as she guided younger wolves through intricate maneuvers. Every motion she executed, precise and deliberate, reminded him of the fire he could no longer deny. His wolf growled low, a restless vibration beneath his skin. Desire clawed at him, but so did fear. He had loved once, deeply, and had nearly lost everything. The bond, now undeniable, reminded him that history might repeat itself. Every glance Mara offered him, innocent, unassuming, was a challenge and a threat combined. From the corner of his eyes, he caught Valen approaching, calm and composed. The rival alpha's gaze lingered on Mara, assessing, calculating. Kalen's wolf bared teeth under his skin. He could not act rashly. He could not expose the vulnerability that now pulsed between him and Mara. Yet restraint was painful. Valen spoke lightly to Mara, complimenting her technique, his charm effortless. Kalen's pulse quickened. She laughed softly at something he said, and it was more than just humor. It was recognition, and that small acknowledgement stirred a storm in Kalen's chest. He clenched his hands at his sides, controlling the growl threatening to escape. Mara's attention never faltered from her students, but Kalen saw her awareness of the tension, subtle in the tilt of her head, the flicker of her eyes. She was perceptive, capable, untouchable in ways he had underestimated. That realization both terrified and fascinated him. He knew Valen's presence was deliberate, a calculated test of boundaries, and he knew, with uncomfortable clarity, that Mara's loyalty or desire would be tested long before any council vote. Kalen's heart, stubborn as it was, recognized the stakes. This was no longer a game of power alone. This was personal. By the time the session ended, Mara approached him, hands lightly brushing his as she handed him a training implement. The bond flared, insistent and overwhelming. Kalen forced himself to step back, swallowing a warning growl. The wolf within demanded possession, protection, and declaration. He ignored it, but only barely. He watched Mara walk away, her figure strong and confident in the fading light, and understood one inescapable truth. The events of this day had changed him. His control was no longer absolute. Desire had claimed territory within his heart, and he feared the consequences more than any rival, more than any political threat. Chapter 7. Uneasy Alliances. The council meeting convened in the stone chamber, the air thick with tension and candle smoke. Kalen entered first, the wolf beneath his skin alert, aware of every shift in the room. Valen was already there, casually leaning against a column, his posture relaxed but eyes sharp. The trial's importance pressed against Kalen's chest like a physical weight. The decision of who would lead both packs was imminent, and Mara's subtle influence loomed over him. Every whispered glance from her reminded him of the bond, the dangerous intimacy that pulsed between them. Valen spoke first, charming and calm, his words calculated to demonstrate intelligence and vision. Mara listened, eyes wide with interest, and Kalen's wolf growled, restrained but warning. He could not allow himself to act impulsively, yet he could not ignore the swell of protectiveness that threatened to overwhelm him. When Mara addressed the council with a quiet, confident suggestion regarding training rotations, the room took notice. Kalen felt pride, intertwined with possessive heat. His wolf stirred, aware of her worth, aware of the connection that could not be denied. Yet Valen's subtle smiles at her achievements fueled the fire within Kalen, jealousy sharpening every nerve. After the meeting, Kalen and Mara walked in silence through the stone corridors. Their hands brushed, and he flinched, forcing himself to suppress the growl in his throat. The bond pressed insistently, demanding acknowledgement. "Mara," he said finally, voice low, controlled. "You must be careful. Your presence, it carries weight others will try to exploit." Her eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "I can handle it," she replied softly. "You needn't shoulder this alone, Kalen." He wanted to scoff, to retreat into his cold composure, but the wolf within hissed, insistent and furious. Desire, fear, and protectiveness collided. Mara was no longer merely a subordinate. She was his mate, in ways he dared not yet fully accept. Chapter 8. Midnight Decisions. The moon hung low over Blackwood, casting silver shadows across the training grounds. Kalen paced, restless. His wolf shifted beneath his skin, aware of Mara's nearby presence, aware of the pull of the bond. He could smell her, faint but undeniable, moving through the shadows with quiet grace. Valen's interference had grown subtle but persistent. He complimented Mara, offered advice, and lingered too long near her during meetings. Kalen's chest tightened. Protectiveness surged alongside desire, and the wolf beneath his skin growled a warning. He found Mara near the stables, feeding the younger wolves. "You should not be out here alone," he said, his voice clipped but not unkind. She glanced up, calm and unflinching. "I'm capable, Kalen. I can handle myself." The words, simple though they were, ignited the bond further. Kalen felt the pull, magnetic and consuming, his instincts demanding acknowledgement. Yet fear restrained him. He had been burned before, and the memory of betrayal lingered like a sharpened blade. I cannot allow anyone to use you as leverage," he said, teeth clenched. His wolf growled low, pressing against his ribs, demanding possession. Mara's eyes softened. "You are not my keeper, nor do I wish you to be." The words struck him, slicing through the confusion of his emotions. He realized she was not a pawn, not an object, not a tool of politics. She was hers to respect, to earn, and to protect. The thought both terrified and exhilarated him. Chapter 9. Flames of rivalry council discussions escalated over resources and training strategies. Kaelin watched Valen maneuver subtly, gaining favor with influential elders. Every compliment to Mara, every nod, every shared glance struck him with possessive intensity. During a break, he confronted Valen privately. "Do not involve her," he said, voice low and dangerous. "Not in politics, not in manipulation." Valen's smile was calm, teasing. "She is her own force, Kaelin. Perhaps you underestimate her." The remark ignited something in him: anger, jealousy, fear. Mara was not a weapon, not a leverage piece, yet the threat lingered in every word. He realized his feelings were deeper than control, deeper than attraction. Fear, desire, and a dawning acknowledgement of love collided violently within him. Chapter 10, First Confession. Kaelin paced the ramparts again, moonlight illuminating the rigid lines of his face. Mara approached, silent as always. The bond pulsed, insistent and consuming. "You cannot hide from it," she said softly, voice calm. "The bond, the tension, it is there, between us." Kaelin froze, the truth hitting him with the force of a storm. His wolf growled low, angry, protective, desperate. I do not know if I can allow it," he admitted. "Love has destroyed me before. I cannot survive it again." Her gaze held his. "You may not have to, if you trust it, if you trust me." The words lingered in the cool night air. Desire, fear, and a fragile hope warred within him. He realized with reluctant clarity that Mara was no longer just a presence in his life. She was a force, a partner, and the one who could awaken a side of him long buried. Chapter 11. Shadows of the Past. The corridors of Blackwood Castle were quiet, but Kaelin's mind was anything but. Memories of past betrayals flickered like shadows in the corners of his mind. He had loved once, deeply, and the cost had nearly destroyed him. He had promised never to let it happen again, yet Mara's presence was unraveling every carefully constructed wall. He observed her from a distance, watching the way she moved through the training yard, correcting young wolves with patience and authority. She was unaware of how completely she had claimed his attention, unaware of the bond that throbbed between them. Valen lingered nearby, too close, too easy in his confidence. Kaelin's wolf shifted beneath his skin, low growls vibrating through his chest. Possession, protection, desire. The instincts were uncontrollable. He remembered a night long ago when trust had failed him. He had lost someone he loved to manipulation and betrayal, and the pain had left scars deeper than any claw mark. Mara was not that person. And yet, the echo of the past haunted every step he took toward her. By midday, Mara approached, handing him a folded map of the territory. Their hands brushed, sending the bond flaring violently. He forced a controlled breath, hiding the wolf's reaction, but the heat in his chest was impossible to deny. "Careful," he muttered, voice low. "You cannot let others influence your decisions. Politics is a dangerous game." "I am aware," she replied softly, her gaze unwavering. "I can navigate it." He wanted to argue, to claim, to drag her away from every threat. Instead, he nodded once, accepting that some battles were hers to fight, some steps hers to take. But he vowed silently he would always be there to protect her, no matter the cost. Chapter 12. The Council's Eye. The council convened again, the chamber heavy with the scent of burning candles and old stone. Kaelin took his place at the head, posture rigid, wolf alert beneath the surface. Every movement of Mara, every subtle glance was magnified in his mind. Valen was calm, composed, but Kaelin knew the rival alpha's gaze lingered on Mara for more than observation. Possessiveness surged through him, a fierce reminder that this bond was more than instinct. It was claim, partnership, a force neither of them could deny. Mara spoke carefully, offering measured suggestions. Her voice carried authority, earning respect from the elders. Kaylin's chest tightened, pride entwined with possessive heat. The wolf beneath his skin growled, urging him to act, to step forward, to mark her as his in a way words could not. After the meeting, Kaylin followed her into the courtyard. The moonlight painted her in silver, and his wolf howled low, impatient, insistent. "You've drawn attention," he said, voice tight. "From Valen, from the council, from everyone." "I can handle it," she replied, calm yet challenging. "You don't need to worry for me." The words struck deeper than he expected. She was not weak. She was strong, capable, and her independence made him ache in ways he had long denied. Chapter 13. Nightfall Tensions. The night brought uneasy quiet. Kaylin walked the battlements, the cool wind a small comfort against the storm within. The bond pulsed, insistent, and he could smell Mara near the stables, tending to the younger wolves. Valen had lingered, his attention subtle but deliberate. Kaylin's chest tightened, wolf growling low in warning. Protect her, claim her, warn the rival alpha away. The instincts were nearly unbearable. Mara approached, silent, her presence calming yet igniting the fire in his chest. "You worry too much," she said softly. "I cannot help it," he admitted, voice low, rough with unspoken emotion. The wolf beneath his skin throbbed, insistent, demanding acknowledgement. "This bond, it changes everything." Her eyes softened, understanding but steady. "Then we face it together." The admission, simple yet profound, left him speechless. Desire, fear, and hope collided violently within him. Chapter 14. Flames of Rivalry. The council meeting erupted into heated debate over resource distribution and territory boundaries. Kaylin observed Valen maneuver subtly, swaying opinions, highlighting strengths, and drawing Mara's attention. Every smile Valen gave her, every nod of recognition, sparked possessive fury. Kaylin caught her gaze across the chamber, noticing the subtle ways she resisted, navigated, and asserted herself. His chest tightened, wolf growling low beneath his skin. Mara was not a pawn, not leverage. She was a force, one he could not deny or control entirely. During a break, Kaylin confronted Valen privately, voice low and dangerous. "Do not use her." Valen's calm smile was teasing. "She is her own force, Kaylin. Perhaps you underestimate her." Anger and fear flared within him. He realized reluctantly that his feelings were deeper than attraction. Mara had become indispensable, and losing her, or seeing her claimed by another, was unthinkable. Chapter 15. Confession at Moonlight. Moonlight bathed the training grounds, silver washing over stone and grass. Kaylin's wolf thrummed beneath his skin, drawn to Mara's presence. She moved silently, aware of him, but unafraid. "You cannot hide from this," she said softly, voice steady. "The bond, it is real." Kaylin froze, heart hammering. His wolf growled, frustrated and insistent. I do not know if I can allow it," he admitted, voice rough. "Love destroyed me before. I cannot survive it again." Her gaze held his, steady and unwavering. "Perhaps you do not have to. Perhaps you can trust it." The words hung in the cool night air. Kaylin realized with reluctant clarity that Mara was no longer just part of his world. She was central to it. Desire, fear, hope, and love collided violently, marking the moment as irrevocable. He had to choose: retreat into the safety of control, or embrace the danger of the bond, knowing the cost might be great. Chapter 16. The Rival's Edge. The early morning fog clung to the Blackwood forest, curling around the trees like whispers of caution. Kaylin moved silently along the ridgeline, wolf senses alert, tracking Mara's subtle movements through the training grounds. Valen had been deliberately close lately, offering guidance and admiration in ways that were impossible to ignore. Every smile, every nod, every casual touch stoked a fire Kaelin both feared and craved. He remembered the nights when trust had failed him, and the bitterness of betrayal lingered beneath his calm exterior. Yet now, the sensation was different. He was not dealing with past ghosts, but a living, breathing challenge that stirred something raw and immediate inside him. Mara was no pawn. She was an anchor, a force, and the mate bond had awakened with frightening intensity. The council's whispers had grown louder over the past week. Rumors of Valen's ambitions, of political maneuvering, of exploiting Mara as leverage, all weighed on Kaelin's mind. He watched her interact with the younger wolves, subtle grace in every gesture, and felt the ache of need tighten his chest. She was too strong, too independent, and too captivating to ignore. Valen's approach broke his focus. Calm, charming, too aware of the tension between them, the rival alpha's voice was smooth. "She impresses you, doesn't she?" Kaelin's jaw tightened. He wanted to growl, to snap, to warn him away with teeth or claws, but restraint was survival. "She is not yours to judge," he said sharply. Valen only smiled, unbothered, leaving Kaelin with a simmering frustration. Mara moved between them like a bridge he could not yet claim, and the bond pulsed insistently, a reminder that she was his in ways he dared not speak. By dusk, Kaelin found her on the ramparts, watching the horizon. He approached quietly. "She will not be used," he murmured, tone low, protective. "I am not weak," she replied, meeting his gaze evenly. His wolf growled, a restrained rumble of warning and desire. He realized then that nothing, neither political intrigue nor rival alpha, could stop the storm the bond had brought. Chapter 17. The Tides of Jealousy. The council gathering was tense. Discussions of resource allocation and alliance subtly veiled threats and dominance games. Kaelin felt every whispered opinion as if it were a blade against his chest. He watched Mara with hawk-like attention, aware of how Valen leaned toward her, spoke to her, subtly showcased her worth. His chest tightened with possessive heat. He wanted to step forward, claim her presence, warn her away from Valen's influence, but restraint remained paramount. The wolf beneath his skin pressed against his ribs, insistent, demanding action he could not yet justify publicly. During a break, Mara lingered by the garden, brushing her hand along the soft leaves. Kaelin approached silently. "Every glance he gives you, every compliment, every subtle touch, it is calculated." Her eyes met his, calm and defiant. "I am not a prize," she said softly, "nor am I unaware." Desire, fear, and pride collided inside him. The bond pulsed violently, urging him to touch, to claim, to speak the truths he had buried for so long. Yet he restrained himself. Love was a weapon he had sworn never to wield. By evening, Valen's presence was impossible to ignore. He laughed lightly with Mara, a casual, intimate sound that set Kaelin's teeth on edge. When Mara's gaze briefly met his, the wolf beneath his skin growled, warning, insistent. He clenched his hands, forcing the growl down. Protect her. Claim her. Not yet. Not publicly. Chapter 18. Conflicted Shadows. Nightfall brought a rare quiet, the castle bathed in silver moonlight. Kaelin patrolled the perimeter, senses taut. He could smell Mara in the stables, faint but real, tending to the younger wolves. His wolf shifted beneath his skin, demanding acknowledgement, insisting on proximity. Memories of past betrayal flared unbidden. He had loved once and lost catastrophically. Mara was not that person, but the bond made the warning impossible to ignore. Vulnerability threatened, yet desire burned brighter. He found her quietly, leaning against the stable wall. "You should not be here alone," he said softly, tone low, protective. She met his gaze without hesitation. "I can handle myself," she said. The wolf inside him growled, frustrated, Possession, protection, desire. They tangled violently within him. He realized with reluctant clarity, Mara was no longer merely part of his world. She was central, unavoidable, and the bond made that truth irreversible. Chapter 19. The Fire Between. A small fire flickered in the training yard, casting shadows across stone walls. Kaelin stood near the edge, watching Mara instruct the younger wolves. The way she moved, her quiet authority, reminded him that she was more than he had imagined, and that desire could no longer be ignored. Valen lingered across the yard, smiling casually at Mara. Kaelin's chest tightened. Every subtle glance, every shared joke, made him ache with possessive frustration. The wolf beneath his skin pressed against his ribs, demanding action. When Mara approached him later, brushing her hand against his, the bond flared violently. Kaelin caught himself, forcing a deep, controlled breath. He wanted to claim her, to pull her close, to whisper truths he had long denied. But restraint remained paramount. The council's watchful eyes, Valen's interference, and his own fears of loss held him back. Chapter 20. Admission under moonlight. The balcony overlooked the forest, silvered by the moon. Kaelin stood tense, aware of Mara's proximity, aware of the bond between them pulsing like a living thing. "You cannot hide from it," she said softly. "The bond, it is real." He froze, wolf growling beneath the surface. I do not know if I can allow it," he admitted, voice rough. "Love has destroyed me before. I cannot survive it again." Her gaze held his. "Perhaps you do not have to. Perhaps you can trust it." The words, simple yet profound, resonated through him. Desire, fear, hope, and love collided violently. He realized with reluctant clarity that Mara was no longer just a presence. She was central to his life, a force that could not be ignored. The choice loomed: retreat into cold control or embrace the bond, knowing the cost might be high, but the reward, if they survived, could be beyond imagining. Chapter 21. The Trial Approaches. The sun rose pale and cold over Blackwood, casting long shadows across the stone courtyards. Kaelin stood at the ramparts, arms crossed, gaze fixed on the distant borders of their territory. Today, the trial of leadership would begin, a test that would determine not only the fate of his pack but the fragile balance with Stonefang. The council had arrived early, their whispers like a chorus of judgment, analyzing every move, every expression. Valen lingered in the courtyard, calm and composed, his attention subtly on Mara. Kaelin's wolf growled low, a warning and demand wrapped into one. Protect, claim, declare. He turned his eyes to Mara. She was calm, poised, as if unaware of the magnitude of what was about to unfold. Her bond with him pulsed, insistent and undeniable. He wanted to step forward, pull her close, and shield her from the world. But the wolf within warned restraint. Actions now carried consequences far beyond their personal desires. He clenched his fists, forcing his emotions into cold, controlled focus. Valen's strategy was evident. He would attempt to use Mara's presence, her strength, as leverage in the trial. Kaelin had anticipated this, and yet, seeing the subtle interactions set his heart on fire. The first stage of the trial commenced, tests of strategy and command, followed by displays of strength and leadership. Kaelin moved with precision, wolf and man in perfect synchronization, but his eyes continually sought Mara. Every glance, every nod from her reminded him of the bond, the tether that had irrevocably claimed him. By dusk, the council paused for reflection. Kaelin stepped aside to speak quietly to Mara. "Whatever happens," he murmured, voice low and fierce, "know that your strength is yours alone. Do not let anyone, least of all me, diminish it." Her gaze softened, holding his. "I trust you," she said quietly, and in that moment, Kaelin felt the weight of leadership, love, and desire converge. The trial had begun, but the true test, of their hearts, had only just started. Chapter 22. Flames of Confrontation. The night brought tension thicker than the forest fog. Kaelin patrolled the borders, senses alert. Valen had made his intentions clear, subtly positioning Mara within sight, highlighting her skills, and watching for any sign of Kaelin's reaction. The wolf inside him rumbled, warning, insistent. He found Mara quietly training with a few younger wolves, her movements precise, commanding, yet graceful. Desire and protectiveness collided violently within him. He stepped forward. "She should not be here alone," he said, voice low and dangerous. Mara met his gaze evenly. "I am not alone, Kaelin. And I am capable." His wolf growled, frustrated yet restrained. Possession, protection, and need battled against reason and responsibility. He realized then that she was no longer merely under his watch. She was equal in strength, will, and heart. Valen appeared at the edge of the clearing, calm and teasing. "She impresses, doesn't she?" Kaelin's jaw tightened. "She is hers alone to be impressed," he replied sharply. The words were spoken with more heat than intended. The tension between the three of them crackled in the air, silent yet palpable. The bond flared violently at the proximity, demanding acknowledgement, insisting on connection. Kaelin felt every heartbeat, every breath, every subtle motion, as if they were extensions of his own body. By midnight, Kaelin retreated to the ramparts, mind racing. Desire, fear, and duty collided. Mara was his mate, his equal. Yet the political and emotional storm threatened to undo everything. Chapter 23. The Choice of the Heart. The final stage of the trial arrived. Kaelin stood at the head of the council chamber, every eye upon him. The tests of strategy, leadership, and strength had been passed. But the true test remained. The bond, the heart, the acknowledgement of what the connection meant. Mara's eyes found his across the room, steady, unwavering. The wolf inside him surged, warning and insistent. Desire, fear, and love collided. He realized the truth he had avoided. He could not protect her without declaring the bond, without admitting what the bond had claimed. Valen observed, poised, waiting for a misstep. The tension was electric. Kaelin took a deep breath, the weight of responsibility pressing against him, but the pulse of the mate bond steadying his resolve. He stepped forward, voice low and commanding. "Mara is my mate," he announced. The chamber fell silent, whispers rippling like waves. The council observed, the rival alpha stiffened, and Kaelin felt the wolf inside him calm. Claiming her, admitting their bond, was not a weakness. It was truth. Her gaze softened, the faintest smile brushing her lips. In that moment, Kaelin understood. Love was not a trap. It was power, clarity, and strength combined. Chapter 24. The Union of Strength. The council deliberated, the announcement inevitable. Kaelin had declared the bond, protected Mara, and acted with unwavering authority. The decision was unanimous. He would lead Blackwood, and the alliance with Stonefang would be forged through mutual respect. Valen bowed slightly, respect in his posture. He had not lost, but he had been challenged by a bond he could not sway. Mara's quiet strength had shifted the balance, and Kaelin recognized the subtle interplay of respect, admiration, and desire between them all. After the formalities, Kaelin found Mara on the balcony overlooking the forest. The bond pulsed, insistent, and he approached, hands trembling only slightly. "We are bound," he said quietly, voice low but firm, "and I will not falter in protecting it, or you." She reached for him, hand brushing his, and he felt the warmth, the fire, the undeniable connection that had claimed him from the start. "And I will stand with you," she replied, soft yet strong. Kaelin's wolf growled low, satisfied. Possession had not been about control. It had been about acknowledgement, trust, and love. Chapter 25. A New Dawn. The first light of dawn painted the Blackwood forest in gold and amber. Kaelin stood beside Mara, gazing over the land he would now lead, not alone, but with her by his side. The council had ruled, the rivalries resolved, and the mate bond was no longer hidden. Every challenge they had faced, the political intrigue, the rival alpha, the unspoken desires, had led to this moment. Kaelin's heart, once guarded, once fractured, now beat steady with clarity and purpose. Mara was not a possession. She was a partner, equal in strength, will, and heart. Valen had departed. His role in the story concluded, leaving respect and acknowledgement behind. Kaelin's wolf purred low, satisfied, no longer restless. Mara turned to him, eyes shining with quiet triumph and affection. "Are you ready?" she asked. Kaelin nodded, voice low and firm. "For everything. With you." The wind swept through the trees, carrying the scent of forest fire and hope. Kaelin reached for her hand, intertwining fingers, feeling the pulse of the mate bond steady and true. Together, they faced the dawn, the packs, and the future, united in love and strength. The trials were over, the lessons learned, and the bond, once feared, now embraced, marked the beginning of a new era,